a bottle of milk, so I'm going to go feed Hershey, our bottle calf. It is quite windy here today, so I'm hoping you won't get too much feedback over your phones or computers, but I'm going to go tuck into our calf shed, so that'll help break the wind a little bit. We have visitors who are joining us here. We have our Great Pyrenees Lizzie. Lizzie says hi. And then we have a few of our cats who are enjoying the sunshine. Second cat. And they're just going to hope that they can get some milk. So everybody's going to follow along. They'll join me in the cow pen. Come on, Lizzie. So I don't have an exact count of how many cows we have yet to calve, but I believe we're somewhere around the 40 mark. But I'll get the actual total for you guys and I'll leave that in the comments. We get quite a few calves a day, but right now because we're getting down to the end, not so many babies. This is one of our past bottle calves. She's actually not a bottle calf anymore. This is Kiss. And Kiss is actually with one of our cows who lost one of her calves. So they've been put together and they're doing very well. But they're just staying in this pen so they can spend a little bit more time with one another before they go out into the rest of the barn or into the rest of the cow pen. So this is one of our new calves. Hey. And I have calves getting very close. So this is one of our new calves, and it is a Simmental cross calf. And the way we can tell that, not only because we know which bull was in with this calf's mother, but also because of its markings. So this calf would be known as a blaze face calf. There are two different categories of markings when you have a calf with a white face. So you have a blaze face or you have a baldy. Baldies, on baldies, the white will extend past their eyes. So now that he's actually turned his head, I think this one might be classified as a baldy. And then the blaze face is the white is above the eyes. So this one has quite a bit more white now that I'm taking a look at it. So I would classify this one probably as a baldy. And then if we have any other calves in here that have a little bit less white, they would be a blaze face. This calf also has some interesting little white markings right on the top and tips of its ears. And also inside. So it's quite a funky little one. But it would have been born just the other day. And some of you can probably hear I have, as I'm filming the one calf, I'm also feeding Hershey. This is our resident bottle calf. And I'm going to hold on to the cap of the bottle a little bit tighter than normal. Since the last few tours, he's ripped it right off. And he's a bottle calf because his mother was injured, so she was unable to take care of him. So we stepped in, and we've been feeding him with the bottle since the end of February. So he's been quite good at. He's been quite good for the camera. Very cooperative. We also have the cats in here. They know that it's feeding time, and a cat's gonna hop up on my lap most likely. Because at the beginning when we were feeding him in the shop and the cats were in the shop, they would get a little bit of a treat. So they know that there's some tasty things around here. So So right now Hershey's being fed approximately 3 to 4 times a day. And once he gets a little bit older, we'll start to transition his milk diet to milk pellets. So it's a little bit easier on the farmers. You can give it to the calves and they're able to munch away on their milk pellets rather than having to bottle feed them in this way. Everybody wants to get in on the milk. We have the cat, we have the dog, we have Kiss, our other bottle baby, and even though she gets milk from her mother, her new mother, she's still quite aware of what the bottle means, and she's just very curious. So we've got everybody here today. We got the cats. So I've talked a little bit about our tags and what the different numbers and the letters mean on those tags. So Hershey and Kiss, so we have Hershey right here, and Kiss, if she'll show us, whoops, right there. They both have names on their tags, so they're a bit special because they are bottle calves, so they got a little bit of a special treatment with their tags. But all the other calves just are identified by their numbers. We're also able to identify them by their special markings out in the field, but we definitely use the tags as our main way of knowing which animal belongs to which cow and where they're supposed to be. So the top number on Hershey's tag, the 30F, that's the number of his mother. So by that means Hershey carries down the number of his mother, but then the letter's a little bit, the letter is different because that represents this year. So kind of like a last name in people, it gets carried down, so we're able to trace the heritage of these calves. But then we're also able to know what year this calf was born. For the milk that we're giving our Hershey right now, it comes in a big bag as milk powder. A very similar formulation that protein powder for humans is. And it's got a very high protein content as well because they're growing and they need a lot of nutrients and a lot of protein to sustain their rapid growth. And it's pretty much the consistency of flour or powdered sugar. And then we mix up 2 cups of that powder with 8 cups of water. And you can see the cat's trying to lick off some of that milk foam. I'll try and give you a different angle. So you can see how Hershey's using his tongue to put a lot of suction on that nipple. And that's exactly how they would nurse on a cow. So the bottle's designed to be as closely representative of what the teat is on a cow. Cows have 4 teats, and their udder is split into four quadrants or 4 sections. Whereas sheep only have 2. And sheep usually will have more than 1 offspring. They'll have up to 4 sometimes. But they only have 2 teats for their babies to feed on, where cattle have 4, but they'll usually only have 1 calf at a time. So the dog really likes to hang out in here. She likes to take a loop around the cow pen. There are a lot of interesting and exciting treats in here. Dog. And Hershey's getting down to the last little bit of the bottle, so we make sure that they get all their milk, but we don't want to overfeed him and we don't want to let him ingest any of the air once he gets to the bottom of the bottle, since getting that air in his stomach is not very good for him. So as soon as he reaches the end, I'll take the bottle away so he can't nurse anymore. So you can see Kiss has the yellow tags. The yellow tags are for the females, and then the blue tags are for the bull calves. And we're making quite a mess here. And see, she wants a little bit of the bottle, but I'm not going to let her have that, as she's supposed to be with her cow. She doesn't get the bottle anymore. The poor cat feels a little left out. And you can see Hershey's kind of losing interest. He's just kind of playing with the bottle right now, so he's not as hungry as he usually is. So he's probably fed a little bit later in the day. There. He's pretty much done. So we'll leave that and we'll save it for a little bit later. We can just reheat the milk and we'll add some new milk to it. So our little baldy calf is back. And we're going to move on into another one of our calf sheds. So we have 3 calf sheds in this big cow pen setup. They are used as protection for the calves. They can get out of the wind, out of the cold a little bit. And it's also a safe place for the calves to sit and lie down since they're out of the way of the cows. So this is Kiss. So this little tail that you see, this is Kiss and this is her new mother. This cow lost her calf right after giving birth, and Kiss was one of our bottle calves, so she didn't have a mother except for us. So we put them together and they've been doing very well together. So they're able to nurse. She's able to nurse on her new mum. And the cow accepts her as her own calf. So that's excellent. We're going to go in this second calf shed. So we have some other babies. We have a couple red ones. So here's another little baldy calf, this time red with a nice pink nose. And long eyelashes too. So some of these calves will have ear tags like this one does over here. And then some of the younger calves haven't been tagged yet. And we'll get to tagging them once they've been in here for a couple of days. And once we're assured that they're doing fine and they're able to be moved out to the big pen, we'll walk the cow and calf down there and they'll meet up with the rest of the cows and the calves. So the cats are all quite interested in what's going on here. And as long as they stay to the calf sheds or the back of the pens, the cows don't mind too much. Even though the cats don't present any threat to the calves at all, the cows are still very protective of their calves, and if they find a cat out in the middle of the cow pen, they'll give the cats a good run for their money. Same thing with the dog. Yeah, so this calf belongs to that cow right over there. So she's watching it very protectively. Now I did see that there was a brand new calf that was born in here as I was walking in to give Hershey his milk. So we're going to go take a look at him. Or her. Not quite sure what it is yet. Come on, Lizzie. One of the other reasons we move our calves out of this closer pen is because everything is starting to melt. Even though the wind's been blowing a lot today and it's still a bit chilly, There's been a lot of snow melting around here, so we don't want the calves to get wet. We want to keep them as dry as possible. So we move them out fairly quickly once they're able to. So we have a cow over here that just recently had this calf. So it's still a little bit wet. You can see its umbilical cord. And the cow will constantly call to her calf. She'll give low mooing sounds. That helps to create a good bond between the cow and the calf. The cow is also able to recognize the calf by smell, and cattle are able to smell anything up to 6 miles. So she can go set her calf down somewhere when she's busy eating, and she can come back and she'll know exactly where she's put it, not only from memory, but because of her smell. So we have this calf that was born today, and then also this other calf right here is also a brand new one. And so the cows are just going to cautiously let me approach. They'll let me know if I get a little bit too close. So it's always a good practice to keep your distance. The cows do mellow out after a few days once they've had their calves. And it also depends on the cow. Some are very protective, and we know that that's one of their traits. So we give them lots of space. We try not to bother their calves too much. But then we also have a few cows, including our 4-H cows, that we know are very calm. We know are very calm, so we don't mind getting too close to them. Now, the reason those cows just made a lot of noise, they got a little bit upset and a little bit anxious. One of the cats was in and around the calves, so they got quite aggressive towards it. And as long as the cats aren't behind us, or if it's the dog, we'll be fine. We're given a little bit of leeway in terms of that. But if you're a cat or a dog, you are not very welcome here. So she's just letting me know I'm a little bit too close. So we'll back up and we'll go the other way. Try to avoid the puddles in here, as well as the protective cows. So I'd love to get everyone to put in the comments where you're watching from. Last live tour, we had a number of different people tuning in from all over, so that was excellent. So please let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Over here we have our calving barn. So at the moment it's very helpful. We haven't been using it as much or as frequently as we've had to since it is warming up, but we still keep the cows that have newly calved in here. So this is what it looks like. We have 3 pens set up on this one side, and then we have one main regular pen over here, and then we have this second pen at the back with this yellow structure. This is our maternity pen, so any cows that are needing a little bit of assistance or help with the calving process, we're able to put them into this maternity pen. Their head goes through this front gate right up here, and then we're able to access the back of the cow, so we're able to put the obstetrical chains on the calf's legs and help pull that calf if necessary. So we have 2 calves in here that were born today as well. So the more recent ones. So the cow's giving a close eye to the dog as well as the cats. Not giving so much attention to me as the others. So we have a herd of 200 head. So that means we'll have 200 cows and then we'll have 200 calves. And we operate with a mostly commercial cattle operation. So that means a lot of them are crossbred and not one breed. So they're a mix of different breeds. But my brothers do own and manage a herd of some purebred cattle. So they have purebred Black Angus and purebred Simmental cattle. This year we've been very lucky, and I'll knock on wood because there haven't been too many calves that have been, they haven't had to have too much assistance. But there are the occasional pulls that my brothers will take on just in case there's a calf that's not quite in the correct position. So when the calves are being born, we want the calves to be in the position where this calf kind of was, where it's nose and feet first, just kind of the way it is if it was standing directly at me. We want to see the nose and the feet first, but occasionally they will be breech or they will have one leg down. Sometimes they'll have their head turned to the side. So in that instance, it's difficult for the calf to properly give birth, so we'll step in and we'll assist the cow with the calving process. There's some times where you'll just get a really big calf, and sometimes it's difficult for the cow to give birth to that baby on her own. So we'll help her in that instance as well. So you can see the cat's here, the cow's looking at her, and not very impressed that the cat's hanging around, so we'll move it out of the way. We want to try and keep the cows as stress-free as possible. And one of the ways we do that is to make sure that during the cow's entire lifetime, starting from its arrival to our farm as a calf, we want to make sure that we spend lots of time with them, get them accustomed to people and other animals walking around, machinery making noise. So when it comes to one of the most stressful times of their life, they're a little bit more prepared in terms of having people around, going through different gates, and getting used to different sights, smells, and sounds. We also bring in, for these cows that are in here, we feed them just small square hay bales, which we have on the outside here. This one is a straw bale, so we spread the straw in the pens with these small straw bales. And then these green ones are the hay bales. We don't regularly feed our cattle in this manner. We have too many, and it would just take so many square bales to feed our whole herd of cattle. So we use big round bales that weigh anywhere from 1,500 to 1,700 pounds. And we use our big case loader as well as one of our New Holland tractors to take that feed to the cattle. Depending on the time of year or depending what our feeding program looks like, we'll mix it up or we'll give it to them as straight hay. Currently, all our cattle are being fed a mixture of that same hay that you saw just in large bale form, as well as corn silage, and they get a little bit of grain added to that. So especially with the cows, we want to be feeding them a high protein, high energy diet, since they're producing milk and they're feeding one of their calves, so they need a lot of energy and a lot of nutrients to be able to keep themselves in condition as well as produce a lot of milk for their calf. And the corn silage, you can pretty much take anything and make it into silage. Silage is just the process of how it's been cut and how it's been stored. So silage is cut when you still want your plants to be green. You want there to be energy and nutrients still within those plants. And then they get packed into a pit or a mound really, really tightly. And then they get covered with plastic or a tarp of some sort so the air and the moisture isn't able to get in. And what happens is that it starts to ensile, or it starts to ferment a little bit like beer. And that's what keeps its nutrients as well as the energy within the feed. So we're able to feed silage throughout the winter from November until now. So we have our silage pit that is getting smaller, but luckily or hopefully the snow will melt soon and the grass will start growing, so we won't have to worry about the silage. But so far it looks like the amount of silage we have will be the perfect amount for this winter. So even though the water and all the mud here is not ideal for a lot of things, the ducks and the geese absolutely love it. You can tell that they are in their paradise. They are really enjoying all this fresh water, all the snow's melting, and once that snow melts, it's exposing all the little bits of grain that's maybe spilled, even the pieces of last year's grass that are laying around. So they're quite happy. They're one of the only ones that don't mind at all that it's a little bit wet out. I have two breeds of ducks, so you can see the one breed looks a little bit like mallards. They are a domestic breed. They're called Rouen. And then that one white one is a Pekin. So luckily most of my geese are out. They do cause quite the ruckus. But they're getting into their breeding season and they're starting to lay eggs. So especially right now, we're able to know exactly where the geese are laying their eggs. I'm actually going to get them out so they're not quite so loud. Because in here the barn echoes quite a bit. So we'll just get them to hop on out for a second. Then you can hear me. So this, even though it doesn't look like very much, this straw that's a little bit fluffed up and piled up is the first indication of a goose nest. So I'll move back some of the straw here. So we have 3 eggs so far. I believe they laid 5 earlier today, so that makes a total of 8. I have a flock of 15 geese, but with the breed that I have, they're very difficult to sex, so they're very difficult to identify which are male or which are female without actually getting a hold of them and taking a look, and even then, it can be quite difficult. So I'm not quite sure how many of females or males I have, but I can kind of gauge that number by the number of eggs I get a day. So I have at least 8 females. It takes poultry, whether it's a chicken, a duck, a goose, it takes them roughly 24 hours to produce an egg. So they'll only lay 1 egg a day. And then these goose eggs are fairly large, so they fit pretty much, they're bigger than the palm of my hand. And the younger female, so this one you can see is a little bit smaller. I'll grab them in the same direction so you can see better. You can see the one is a fair size bit larger than the second, so the one on the right hand side is most likely laid by an older female, a more mature female. And then the smaller one is laid by a younger, so a first-time female. So everybody's a little bit interested in the eggs, even though they're not supposed to be in here. Out. Come on. So when I got here, the nest was covered up, so the geese will start to accumulate their eggs. So once they've decided that they have enough eggs to start to sit on them, they'll sit on those eggs and they won't leave until they've hatched. They will occasionally get up and go for a drink of water, but for the most part, they are dedicated and they will sit on the eggs until they hatch. But up until the point that they're ready to start the setting process, so setting is them sitting on the eggs, up until they start that setting process, they'll just keep accumulating eggs and they'll cover them up so they stay warm, so they don't freeze. But as long as the eggs are staying at a fairly consistent temperature that's above freezing, they can sit here and they are just fine to sit and wait until the mother goose has decided she's going to start the setting process. And the average clutch size for a goose, I find to be about 8 to 10 for my geese. And it'll usually take them a few days, and especially if there are a number of females that are laying in the same area, they'll get their eggs much quicker than they would if they were just laying themselves. So it can really depend on the number of geese you have in your flock and if they're all laying in the same spot. But I have at least 3 nest sites identified, so we can end up with any number of goslings. So I keep taking these eggs away from the geese just for the time being until it gets a little bit warmer. But I am having a lot of people interested in goose eggs, so I'm selling a lot of hatching eggs. And you can hatch out eggs whether you want to put them under your own geese or under your own chickens. Or you can decide to put them in an incubator and do it the man-made way. Lizzie! Make sure everybody gets out of the chicken house since they don't need to be in there, or the goose house. We're gonna go into our hen house now. A hen house plus turkey. So I have a number of different breeds in here. Some are some crossbred, so that means they will lay various colored eggs. I really love the blue eggs, the dark brown, the olive eggs. So a number of my hens are layers of that. But then I do have a few purebred hens. I have some chocolate Orpingtons. Which one is... I have a few crosses. But this one hen over here is a chocolate Orpington. I have some lavender Orpingtons. This one is a lavender Orpington. So you can see some of the hens are wearing these funky little fabric apparatuses, and those are called chicken saddles. So I put those on my hens when I have my rooster in here, since the roosters can be quite aggressive with their claws and their spurs. So this just helps to preserve the hen's feathers that are right on their back. So it makes the breeding process a lot more comfortable for the hens. So we gather eggs approximately twice a day, or depending on the amount of times we're in here. So you can get eggs of all shapes and sizes. That's the really fun thing about having fresh farm eggs, is we don't grade our eggs, and as long as they fit in the carton, that's what our customers get. So these are a few of the kind of light blue, light green eggs. And we'll take a look. So we have 3 hens that are in here right now. Now this hen has been sitting in here for, I would say, the last week or so, and she's all puffed up and she looks a little bit angry at me. And the reason she's doing that is because she's getting into the time of where she wants to sit, and she wants to incubate these eggs. So we're not letting her... Even though I've done this hundreds of times, depending on where they peck you on your hand, they're just going to get the perfect spot where it just hurts like you wouldn't believe. So, and depending on the hen, they know just where to aim and get you. So she's wanting to sit on eggs. She wants to incubate them. So I have a rooster in here with the hens. He's not the same breed as she is, but that's okay. With all the hens in here, I'll get a collection of eggs and I'll give them to her so she can start setting. I'll move her from this spot since this nest box is a little bit tight for space when it comes to actually incubating eggs. So I'll move her so she's in a separate space by herself so she can have nothing around her. That's all she'll be doing. And then hopefully 21 days later, she'll hatch out a bunch of chicks. Now I see we have a question in regards to how long does a gosling take to hatch. With geese, it depends on the breed. My geese are Toulouse, which is a French breed, and so they're classified as a medium to heavy breed of geese, and they'll take around 35 days, but some of the really heavier breeds, so the bigger breeds, will take close to 37 to 38 days. Chickens take 21 days, your normal standard breed, and then any of the ducks that I have, their eggs will take about 28 days to hatch. So right now, the term we use for this hen is called broody. So she's nice and broody. She wants to set on some eggs. So I'll get some collected and I'll hopefully be able to place her with a couple. So everybody's getting a little cranky with me in there. So we'll leave them for a bit. And I also have one of my fabulous customers who, see, just so loud with the geese. I have one of my fabulous customers who does a lot of pisanka, which is the traditional Ukrainian style of decorating Easter eggs. So she uses both the goose eggs, which makes for really large pisanka, of course, and then she uses some of the smaller chicken eggs, and she likes to do them with their natural colors instead of the actual wax. So she'll take the nice olive eggs or the dark brown ones and she'll etch them, and they're absolutely stunning. If you'd like to see some pictures of them, we have them on our Instagram as well as our Facebook page. So just take a few scrolls down and you'll be able to find these absolutely stunning eggs. It takes so much patience and skill to be able to do that, so I'm very jealous. So we have our sheep way over there in the far corner, and I'm going to give them a little bit of a treat. And I didn't bring an extra pail with me, but there were some already made up. So I'll take that with me and just give them part of it. This is also where our silage pit is. It's definitely quite a bit smaller than it was at the beginning of the winter. So the silage is not actually these big round bales. These big round bales are used as weighing the tarp down that we have covering the silage. And then those other bales that are stacked on top of one another, those are used as our little feed containers. So we mix up all our feed, or mix up all our hay, and it gets blown in there. So this is what the silage looks like. The pile was quite a bit bigger, but we're getting to the end. So if I was to compare it to anything that you all would be fairly familiar with, it kind of looks like shavings, but it's still very wet, It's got a lot of moisture in it still. And if you look closely, we can find some corn kernels. So this piece was part of a corn kernel. Oh, here's a good one. So these are all the corn kernels from the corn silage. And then the rest of this material is the stalks, the leaves, the cobs, everything. So it gets chopped up into very fine pieces. And it gets covered with the tarp. And as you can see, this is packed really tightly. So that's what keeps it from drying out. And so we mix this silage in with our hay and grain for the cattle, and we feed that to them every day. My brothers will come out in the morning, they'll get all the tractors warmed up, and they'll feed. And the feeding process for all of our cattle, between the cows, the heifers, the bulls, and when we had some more of our weaned calves, it takes approximately 2 hours to feed everything. Right now it takes a little bit less, probably an hour and a half, since we sold a lot of our weaned calves. Sorry, I'm trudging through the snow with the grain. There we go, that's a bit better. So here we have our sheep pen. And we have 6 ewes that are bred this year. So 3 of our ewes are at the front right here. And I'm gonna try and dump this extra grain in here without spilling half of it. And the sheep get really pushy. They enjoy their grain a lot. They are not very good at social distancing. And so that makes it pretty tricky to even just feed them normally when I'm not using a camera. So it's not going to be as graceful as usual. And they jump in their feeder and they kind of squish you in there. And I'm not really going to be able to spread out their grain as well as normal, but that'll be just fine. So our ewes are bred, and the ewes are female sheep. And they're bred in December, and then they will lamb in May. Their gestation period is quite a bit shorter than it is for cattle. Theirs is only 245 days, where cattle are 9 months. And we like to lamb out in the springtime when there is green grass on the ground. So we have just under a month until we start lambing. So hopefully we can keep doing some live videos and show everybody the lambs. The sheep also make some interesting noises when they're eating. They make a lot of grunting sounds. Sheep also have a split in their upper lip. So when they're eating blades of grass in particular, or working on little saplings, they're able to get really close to the base of that plant and strip all the good leaves off. They also have a cloven hoof, so they have the split in their hoof as well. And when we shear our sheep, we do that right before they lamb, and we shear them once a year. We'll also trim their hooves, because as they're growing, as their wool is growing, their hooves also grow, just like our fingernails. So if there were a lot of rocks for them to jump around and play on, their hooves would be naturally worn down, but especially in the winter when everything's all covered up, they don't have a lot of opportunity to wear down those hooves, so we'll trim them for them. And just with anyone getting a haircut, trimming their wool doesn't hurt them at all. So their wool is quite unique in terms to any of the other covering that animals have. Dogs have hair, cats have hair, horses and cattle have hair, and it's all very similar. But sheep have wool, which is made up of individual little fibers, which start out as ringlets on little lambs. And then sheep also produce lanolin, which is excellent for keeping their skin soft and moisturized. It also has an incredibly unique smell that I can't even really describe because it's so unique to sheep. It's not an unpleasant smell. It's just very farmy. It's a very farmy smell. So sheep are constantly growing their wool. And then once we shear their wool in the spring, we take that and we try to keep it as clean as possible. And then we take it to an auction mart in Tofield, and people will buy it and they'll use it for making yarn and other textiles. So it's a very useful and natural product. Wool is also used as an emergency cleanup source. So if there's oil spilled anywhere, oftentimes wool is used for that since it's absorbed. It's excellent for absorption. And it keeps the sheep very warm. They really don't need a whole lot of extra coat because the wool does an incredible job of keeping them warm during the cold winter months. So these sheep weigh approximately, this wether right here, which a wether is a castrated male. These wethers weigh around 150 pounds, give or take. And then our ewes, they'll be weighing a little bit more because they have their lambs, they're carrying their lambs. And as you can see, they're kind of looking a little bit round, and they'll start to get more round as the weeks progress. But the ewes will weigh close to 200 pounds, depending on the ewe. Ours will weigh, some of these will weigh close to 200 pounds. Some will weigh more in the 150 range. And then when lambs are born, they on average weigh 5 pounds when they're born. So pretty tiny. But a ewe can have up to 4 lambs at a time. So that's a lot of baby for an animal that's fairly small in comparison to a cow. This is how we feed our sheep. They are the ones that just get the hay. They really don't seem to enjoy the corn silage itself, but they're a real fan of the corn when it's standing in the field. So when we had them out during the summer, it was kind of a constant battle to keep them out of the corn. But as sort of a byproduct of the actual standing corn, they're not such a fan. This is what our hay looks like. So he'll have a bit. So hay is just a preserved feed for the sheep and for the cattle, and hay can be made from either grass or alfalfa, which is a legume. And then the straw that we bed our cattle with, that is the leftover and the remnants of our grain crop. So whether that be barley or oats, barley, oats, or wheat. You can also make pea straw as well as canola straw. But wheat straw and barley straw are the preferred crops for that because it creates really nice fluffy straw. So you can see some of the sheep are actually stomping at the dog. They're quite used to her, but they are giving her a signal that she's not really wanted around here. She is a livestock guardian dog, but she doesn't spend, she's not exclusively with the sheep or one of our different livestock at our farm. She's more of a generalist. She kind of goes around the whole yard and makes sure that there are no coyotes or even deer around, but she doesn't stay with the sheep in particular like most livestock guardians do. One of the things that we've done recently on our website for anyone who has younger kids and are looking for some exciting farm things to learn about or participate in, on our website we have a full page of ag resources. So if you visit chatsworthfarm.ca, or you can just Google that, we have a list of various different coloring sheets and activity books, crosswords, and a bunch of different learning labs from various organizations and agricultural businesses. So check that out. We also have it listed on our Facebook page. I think that's going to be it for today. I know I can see my brothers out in the cow pen, so I'll go give them a little bit of help. Thanks so much everyone for tuning in, and our next virtual farm tour will most likely be on Saturday or Sunday, or even Monday. I'll keep you all informed about when that's going to be. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope everyone is staying healthy and safe, and have a good rest of your evening, and happy Easter. Thanks for watching.